Welcome to Smart Manufacturing Mindset, where we explore the strategies, technologies, and leadership perspectives driving the future of manufacturing. This season, we're diving deep into the gritty details of what must be true for smart manufacturing success, covering key topics like organizational design, the role of technology partners, developing trust, change management, modern architectures, and skill development. Smart manufacturing is a journey, a team sport, and success requires every stakeholder working together to drive real transformation. This is Smart Manufacturing Mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Smart Manufacturing Mindset podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Winter, and you're listening to Season 2, Episode 5. And this is the second half of our special 2-episode deep dive into the World Economic Forum's Global Lighthouse Network. And so you know, this entire 2-part series actually came from one set of interviews. There was simply too much good content, too much insight, and too much practical wisdom to jam it into a single episode. So rather than kind of cutting it down, we split it in two. In episode 4, we focused on the what and the why. You know, what these companies transform, why they chose to pursue lighthouse recognition, and the incredible results they achieved. Operational gains, cultural shifts, workforce transformations, the kind of outcomes most companies only dream of. And you know what? They achieved it. They proved it, and were globally recognized for it. Their factories became benchmarks. Their people became empowered, and their organizations became smarter, more agile, and more resilient than ever before. So if you missed that part, I encourage you to check out episode 4 first. Let's review our cast that we have. First, we have Bart Talun, who's the former head of supply chain strategy and innovation at Johnson & Johnson, and now an executive fellow at the World Economic Forum's Center for Advanced Manufacturing, and an advisory board member for the Global Lighthouse Network. So he's representing both Johnson & Johnson's journey and the World Economic Forum perspective. We also have Anthony Loy, Vice President of Global Digital Transformation at Schneider Electric. We have Bish Sen, Global Chief Supply Chain Officer for Beauty and Wellbeing at Unilever. We also have Jackie Zheng, Vice President of Global Operations Strategy and Corporate Sustainability at Western Digital. And last but not least, Dr. Zhongsheng Liu, Rotating CEO and Chief Digital Officer at Foxconn Industrial Internet. And today, in episode 5, we shift fully into the how they made the key decisions that shaped their success, how they align their people, their partners, their priorities, how they overcome resistance and how they avoided common pitfalls, and kind of what they learned to make this scale. And ultimately, what advice they have for any company considering the Global Lighthouse Network, or those just simply trying to improve their own capabilities without earning the World Economic Forum badge. So let's start with the key decisions and actions that made these transformations work. Because we know that behind every breakthrough, every productivity jump, every cultural shift, every automation leap, were a handful of key decisions that changed the trajectory. These weren't accidental wins. These were deliberate choices, often made early, sometimes made under pressure, and always made with conviction. And across all 5 companies, these decisions reveal an interesting pattern that I noticed. Clarity before action, operations before technology, and scale before celebration. Let's begin with Johnson & Johnson, because Bart lays out their decision-making framework with a level of structure which most companies only wish they had. He breaks down Johnson & Johnson's transformation into 3 foundational decisions, the strategic choices that help shape everything that followed. So listen closely to how systemic and disciplined it is.
So there were 3 important decisions that we made. The first one was we took our time to develop a robust approach and our digital manufacturing strategy. We did go and see visits to industries and companies that were advanced in their digital transformation, such as aerospace, automotive, electronics. And this really gives us inspiration. It gives us insight in how good looks like, what it takes, and it creates a lot of enthusiasm and belief in the possible in the organization. From a strategy perspective, it was a business and customer driven strategy, meaning that those needs and priorities guided which capabilities we had to focus on and KPIs, and that defined which technology solutions we had to develop and deploy. So it was a tech pull approach and not a tech push approach. We also were very ambitious. We really strived for savings that were twice or three times our investments, which we delivered upon. And also, as part of that aspiration, was we wanted to become a lighthouse, because that was the external recognition for smart manufacturing excellence. Second important decision was that we didn't do the traditional pilots. We adopted a test and learn approach, which shows that you take risk, you lean in, you test solutions that are not 100% baked or matured, but at the same time, you involve already the business to learn how to operate these new solutions. And we tested multiple solutions at the same time for within different businesses to really, maximize our learning and define the right solution for each business. The third important decision was our governance model. So in a complex organization like J&J, it is critical that you have clarity what is the role of the central enterprise teams and the sector teams. And we developed a model where the roles were very complementary and not duplicating, and we leveraged kind of the synergies between bottom up and top down. The central teams were responsible for scouting and development of new solutions, whereas the sector teams were responsible for the testing, deployment, and scaling. And the testing was the handover. The central teams were also responsible to define a standard set of technology solutions, a repository, a library, from which the sectors picked the solutions that were applicable for them, depending on their needs. So they didn't pick and choose whatever they wanted. And lastly, the enterprise team was responsible for the overall governance, for the value calculation coordination with finance, and also drove best practice sharing across the different sectors, whereas the sectors were responsible for the bulk of the funding and the resourcing, and they were responsible to really deploy and scale and drive the impact.
3 decisions: strategy first, test and learn approach, and a governance model built for scale. They became the scaffolding for all of Johnson & Johnson's Lighthouse sites. Now notice how there was something missing from that list. Buy the newest technology. Because the brilliance wasn't in the technology that they chose, it was how they chose it. Now, Schneider's transformation hinged on 2 choices that sound simple but are actually shockingly rare in manufacturing. First is put operations fully in charge, and second is build for scale from day one, not after the first win. Listen to how Anthony puts it.
So one of the key decisions right from the start for us in digital transformation and turning our factories into lighthouse, it's first, this is a business-led transformation. This is an operation-led transformation. This is not an IT-led transformation. And that was a decision that we had to take at the very beginning. The site manager, the head of the different functions, are in charge of turning their sites into a lighthouse. It's not a technology push. We had some attempts of trying to do some technology push, but actually you are not able to demonstrate any result when you are in a technology push mode. So that was for us a key decision.
This is gold. Anthony's story highlights something profound. Transformation isn't powered by technology. Once again, you're noticing a theme. But for them, it's powered by clarity. Clarity on who leads, clarity on what gets scaled, and clarity on, more importantly, when to stop certain things. Those decisions gave Schneider the discipline to aim higher and the structure to actually get there. But clarity also shows up in very different forms, especially for Unilever. So where Schneider's breakthrough decision was about ownership and scale, Unilever's was about external truth, the willingness to let the outside world challenge their internal beliefs. And as Bish explains, that single decision reshaped everything that followed.
So there were two big decisions or two big shifts. The first one was to seek external validation for the Unilever manufacturing program that we had, the Unilever Manufacturing Excellence program that we had. And it was a decision to benchmark against the best in other industries, to learn and explore opportunities to improve. So that was the first big decision. When we got the first few sites accredited, in addition to the pride that it created, in addition to the talent catalyst, talent magnet that it became for us on the shop floor, we went back to reconcile, not seeking causality, but correlation between performance and accreditation. So, do the WEF accredited sites actually add more value, create superior value, as we call it in our terms, than other sites? And we were looking for it, saying, is there a broad correlation which works? When we found that indeed these sites were ahead of the pack, they were creating more value, it led to the sustained funding of the Unilever Manufacturing Excellence Program. It led to the more rapid rollout of the program across more sites because there was clear correlation between the value creation and the journey of manufacturing excellence.
Where Schneider doubled down on scale, Unilever doubled down on evidence. They didn't assume lighthouse sites were better, they proved they were. And that proof became the fuel: confidence for leadership, pride for the shop floor, and a mandate to accelerate everywhere. And it's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most important decision isn't what you build, it's who you're willing to learn from. And it's the perfect moment to shift to a company that built belief deliberately, not by talking about transformation, but by proving it in a way that no one could deny. And Jackie explains that Western Digital's breakthrough didn't come from a portfolio of use cases. It came from one, a single, carefully chosen, high impact, impossible to ignore proof point.
A key success factor for us is to find a blockbuster initiative that was successful, that was so impactful that it shows it can be done, and then take the entire company on this journey. So one of the key success we had is in our factories. We spend a lot of time testing our product. Many of product has very high yield, and we spend hundreds of hours of testing. So the key decision we made is to take a blockbuster use case, is to use machine learning to look at our product qualities and use that to uh, reduce the test time required. So if you learn and you know this product is going to be doing really well, then you test less, right? And then if you have insights that the product is a little bit weaker from all the data that you generated, you test more. So this blockbuster use case generated a 15% test time reduction that was unheard of within our factories. And the success become a sensation, and this success powers everybody to believe in big data, believe in analytics, and believe on this journey.
One use case, one undeniable win, and suddenly the skeptics, they had nothing left to argue with. But Western Digital didn't stop there. Once the organization believed, Jackie and her team made another decision, one that turned momentum into measurable, scalable discipline.
And we believe that if you can measure, you will improve. So from our transformation journey, the first thing is we set a measurable target for automation. We come up with a holistic metric to measure a level of automations, and we set up a holistic measure to measure of level of analytics. And we put all our factories on the scale and to say where they are. And with that, we look at the best practice factories and we ask everyone to adopt the best practice and drive up the KPIs. So this one, I thought that is unique in us, that we have a percentage of automations and percentage of analytics intelligence. And that is something that once we have a measurable metric, the movement just comes in on, trying to aim high for all the factories.
Jackie gave her organization two gifts: a spark and a scoreboard. The spark created belief, and the scoreboard created discipline. And it was this formula of belief and discipline that turned Western Digital's transformation from a project into a movement. Now, Foxconn had a totally different path. Instead of anchoring their transformation on a single use case or a single site, they made a foundational choice about who should lead transformation and where digital capability should live. Let's hear what Zhongcheng has to say.
I would say maybe the most important decision is to, I think to let the business operation team lead the transformation, and also to build in-house technology development capabilities rather than purchase that from vendors. Um, I would say, the first is to have the business operation team to lead, which is very important because we always begin with a change story, with the business challenges, so that they know what type of challenge, what type of technologies they need, and to what extent they need to solve the problem. And also, I would say build in-house technology capability is very important because digital transformation is not about building infrastructure. It's not about some technologies that you can purchase, but it's a internal capabilities that you need to build and sustain, right? And that can keep you improve all the time. So I would say this is very important. I think the difference, we also see some other companies, very big ones, they tend to have a separate business division or even a independent subsidiary companies to handle the digital transformation. So, but I would say that in that way, the company is more look into the technology perspective or the IT perspective, but we believe that the core driving force should come from the operation, so from the business operation team. So I would say that's a very difference, right? So and after 10 years of practice, and we still see that the internal capabilities is gradually built, and also the business operation team, they have this synergy and this bottom up flexibility to drive their business change. And I think it's very important for very large company like Foxconn.
Where Western Digital proved transformation with a blockbuster, Foxconn ensured transformation would never depend on one. They put the engine of change directly into the hands of operations and then armed those teams with thousands of their own developers, automation engineers, and data builders. And in a company of Foxconn's scale, this wasn't just a decision. It was an architectural rewiring of who creates value and how fast they can reinvent themselves. Now, looking across all the stories, one thing becomes really clear to me. Real transformation isn't driven by tools. It's driven by decisive choices. Each leader approached those choices differently, but the underlying instincts were very similar. Start with business truth. Empower the people closest to the work and create mechanisms that make progress scalable and not accidental. Their paths diverged in powerful ways. Some sparked belief through a single breakthrough, others built transformation into their operating models, and others raised the bar through external benchmarking. And those differences matter because they show that there's no universal formula. What works is what fits your culture, your challenge, and your ambition. And woven through every one of these stories, my personal biggest takeaway was success didn't come from copying best practices. It came from committing to their own, making the hard calls, backing them with discipline, and staying curious enough to keep learning, even when the early wins start rolling in. Real transformation has signatures, not formulas. Think of it like patterns that you can recognize, but they can never be replicated verbatim. And once those signatures take hold, they don't just change factories, they change how an organization thinks, how it leads, and how it competes. And that brings us to the final chapter of this conversation, and the part every listener, I hope, has been waiting for. Because once you understand the decisions these leaders made, the next natural question becomes, so what should we do? You've already done it. What should we do? So whether you're considering the World Economic Forum's Lighthouse program itself, or simply trying to just build your own internal lighthouse factories without external certification at all, the principles are very similar. So now we'll shift from what they did to what they recommend, starting with Zhongsheng.
First of all, the Lighthouse program actually provide a systematic framework of digital transformation, or like the business transformation, or even I think business transformation is maybe a more important concept behind that. I would say like for digital transformation is not a option; it's a must do in this moment, right? But actually, I think Lighthouse program is a very good benchmark, and it also can create a synergy within the company. It's a very rewarding and very well known certificate. It's a worth of trying. It's worth it's very I would say it's like the Oscar of manufacturing. It's very honorable program. But I think if a company would like to pursue the Lighthouse program, or even to start with the digital transformation journey, I would say like the first step is to come up with a good change story. Right, this story needs to be closely aligned with your business strategy, and it explains the challenge that you are facing clearly, and also be inspiring to your employee and also shareholders. I would say that is usually the first step. And I think second is to advice is to using the method of tomorrow to solve the problem of today. So I think robotics, generative AI, digital twin are the method of tomorrow. And even though you may have some very reliable, mature solutions to your existing procedural problems as for today, but you really try to adopt new method. Even it may cause some turbulence at the beginning, but it will make the disruptive change in future and may shape your competitiveness in future. And I think the third is to design your transformation journey from top down and a more systematic perspective, while still create a bottom up practice flexibility and a culture, right? So that you can have a kind of overall design, but you hope that all this good ideas and good practice can be self motivated from the organization, right? So I would say like top down of design, but bottom up of practice, right? I would say these three suggestions are should be quite useful for companies if they want to become a lighthouse.
His emphasis on crafting an inspiring change story and designing top down while empowering bottom up, it reminds us that transformation succeeds when purpose and structure meet. It sets the tone for all the other advice that follows. And Jackie's advice, it hits hard because it's simple, it's direct, and it's immediately actionable. It isn't about tools or dashboards or architectures. It's about urgency and effort, and most of all, people. Let's hear what she has to say.
I think number one is start now, get on the journey. Number two, be ready to put in a lot of work. It is not easy, but it's very, very rewarding. And number three is that please bring your people along with you on the journey. A lot of people will think about technology is important. What I see the most important is people. If you inspire them, they will go look for technology to adopt. If you inspire them, this transformation is going to go from a single digit improvement to a double digit improvement. They get excited. And if you inspire them that we are bringing you along with our journey, that your skills will be upgraded, you will learn new ways of doing things, your work is going to be more meaningful and more impactful. They will bring along with them ideas, and they will be even more committed and engaged. So bring your people along with you on the journey.
Jackie's point is a powerful one. You can mandate new tools, you can force new processes, but you cannot force transformation. The people must choose it, and inspiration is what creates, or at least helps create, that choice. And then, after she described those several principles, I asked her a good follow up question. If you could do it all over again, what would you do differently? No hesitation. She didn't even pause. Her answer came immediately, almost reflexively. I wish I had more stakeholder engagement.
Because at the end, it's about a people business. You want people to get on the journey with you. And stakeholder engagement is so important, whether it's IT supporting you, whether it's a manufacturing shop floor that you want to put in automations, or you want a process engineering to think about using data, using analytics to change the way that they look at their process, analyze it. I wish I have done a lot more stakeholder engagement and get that buy-in to get on the journey with me.
Transformation is a people sport, and stakeholder engagement is the difference between a project we're doing and a movement that we're part of. And in her case, her transformation was so successful and so fast that stakeholder alignment became both the accelerator and the bottleneck. And her lesson is a gift to anyone trying to lead change. Invest in stakeholder engagement early and deeply and continuously, because your transformation will only go as far as your people are willing to go. Bish from Unilever offered two pieces of advice that stand out. One for companies that are on the transformation journey, and another for those considering whether to pursue the Lighthouse program. And they're very different in tone and intent. One is about daily discipline, and the other is about the strategic value of benchmarking beyond your own four walls. Let's start with the advice for companies already in the trenches.
I would emphasize the need for everyday rigor and consistency of execution on the shop floor. It's not about clearing an examination. It's not about passing an audit. It's not about collecting a trophy. It is about living the journey every day at every touch point. And that is the hard part of it. It's not knowing what to do, but it's about doing it consistently every day. The ones that have practiced within our fold, the sites that have practiced it and lived it every day are the ones that have created sustained value, are the ones that actually transform, are the ones that actually deliver the outcomes we've been looking for. And equally, approaching it with an audit mindset, saying this is an audit and I need to clear an audit, doesn't create the value, doesn't lead to the benefits being realized, and often doesn't clear the threshold of the World Economic Forum.
This is one of the most grounded pieces of advice you'll hear. Bish is pointing out that transformation isn't something you perform during audits. It's something you practice relentlessly, day after day. The sites that succeed aren't the ones that prepare the best presentation. They're the ones that keep showing up when no one's watching. So then, Bish shifts gears to address a different question entirely. Should we pursue Lighthouse accreditation? And his answer expands the frame beyond recognition into contribution.
There are many paths to excellence. And initially, when we started the journey believing that the program that we have, the Unilever Manufacturing Excellence Program, would take us all the way. After having implemented, the excellence program, after having been through it for a fair few years, we decided it was important for us to open the doors and benchmark and learn from the best in the industry, best in other industries as well. And that is where the World Economic Forum program played a crucial role, because it helped us benchmark. It helped us validate the processes. It helped us change some of the things we were doing. So it's not just about an accreditation, but it's a very structured way of achieving excellence, is the way I would frame it, in terms of why you should consider the World Economic Forum program. Even if you have a very well developed manufacturing excellence journey, even if you have sites that are operating at the peak. There are two reasons I'd give you for joining the World Economic Forum program. One, it'll help you benchmark yourself against the best across industries. And two, it'll give you an opportunity to contribute to the larger manufacturing excellence journey, because this journey ain't done yet. It's still a journey in progress. We're still marching on, and maybe something that you have done will help us learn from what your experiences have been, and continue the journey for excellence.
This is the strategic side of transformation. Bish makes the case that even mature organizations benefit from the Lighthouse program, not because they need validation, but because they need comparison. Real, sometimes uncomfortable, but ambition-raising comparison. And lastly, because Bart not only led one of the most successful Lighthouse programs inside a global company, he now sits on the World Economic Forum team that evaluates and supports lighthouses around the world. So his advice comes from two vantage points: what it takes to earn it and what it means once you're in. So let's start with his advice for companies already transforming.
First, be ambitious, right? So, an aspiring to become a lighthouse can articulate that digital transformation ambition because it is the external recognition for smart manufacturing excellence. It's an honor to be part of that community. Second advice is lean in, because I have also experienced within J&J, there is some skepticism and doubt. We are not ready for a lighthouse submission. What's the value? We don't have time. We have other priorities. There's never a site that really volunteers and step up to do it, honestly. You have to give them a bit of a push and create a bit of an internal competition amongst the sites for submissions. But once you have your first designation, it's a snowball effect. It creates a lot of pride, a lot of enthusiasm and momentum in the organization. So, and I always say to the sites, you're more ready than you think. So lean in and look, there's nothing to lose, right? If you don't succeed, learn from it and try again. The third advice is use the Lighthouse program and the Global Lighthouse Network strategically to push yourself, to create a sense of urgency, and help accelerate the scaling and impact of your own digital transformation. Just by going through the process of a Lighthouse submission, you will realize that it helps accelerate your own journey, right? Because it creates a sense of urgency and a pressure and a push. But besides that, what I would say based on my own experience is that being part of that Global Lighthouse Network, that community of companies that are excellent in smart manufacturing, gives you a couple of big benefits and values. One is you have direct access to that group of experts, and it is industry experts, technology experts, academical experts in the space for free. Second, you also have visibility on the best-in-class use cases. So across the Global Lighthouse Network, there are more than 1,000 use cases and over 100 technology solutions that have been deployed successfully. So you have visibility to that information, to that database, and you can leverage that and learn from it for your own journey. And you can bring it to the next step. You have the ability to do peer benchmarking with other companies in that network that are better in certain capabilities that you still have to improve or where you have gaps. And again, you can do all of that basically for free, right? And it's very effective and very, I would say, practical and tangible and impactful.
The Lighthouse program isn't just a certification, and it isn't just an accelerator. It's also a community. Simply preparing for it, it forces your organization to sharpen its story, sharpen its priorities, and sharpen its execution. Joining it gives you access to one of the richest, most curated just banks of real-world use cases and expertise anywhere in the manufacturing world. Now, as we close out this two-part series, one thing is unmistakably clear. These weren't abstract discussions about digital transformation. These were conversations with leaders whose companies proved it. They didn't just experiment or optimize, they achieved excellence at a level recognized by one of the most respected manufacturing communities in the world, the World Economic Forum's Global Lighthouse Network. And the Lighthouse program isn't just an award, as you've learned. It's a rigorous framework, one that creates urgency, it forces focus, and it brings companies into a global community that benchmarks honestly. It shares openly, and it pushes each other to raise the bar. But what struck me the most is that every company we heard from became fundamentally different along the way. They became faster, more disciplined, more people-centric, and far more capable of sustaining innovation long after the first big win. But you don't have to pursue Lighthouse status to start acting like a Lighthouse organization. You can actually build your own internal versions, and SESME's Smart Manufacturing Roadmap program is one of the best ways to do it. So while the Lighthouse program shows what great looks like, SESME helps you map your path towards it, giving you a structure, giving you clarity, and a sequence of steps that make transformation achievable for manufacturers of any size. So as we wrap up this two-part series, the message is simple. You just need the willingness to learn, the courage to choose, and the discipline to keep going to get started and make an impact. Thanks for joining us on this two-part journey. And whether you're in the middle of your transformation, whether you're just Lighthouse curious or Lighthouse bound, or just trying to build your own internal spark, we hope these stories help light the way forward. See you next time.